Corruption is not only about money, it is also about power, integrity, accountability, and public trust. This documentary examines the corruption case involving former Section Court Judge Azmil Muntafa Abbas, focusing on the case, the root causes, and how similar corruption can be prevented.
Azmil Mustafa Abbas is a former Section Court judge who served at Kuala Kubu Baru Section Court. During his time as a judge, he became involved in a corruption case concerning the receipt of 5,000 ringgit connected to court proceeding under his official responsibility. The case became significant because judges are entrusted with the responsibility to make decisions fairly, independently, and according to the law and evidence. Therefore, corruption involving a judicial officer is particularly serious because it can affect not only the individual involved, but also public confidence in the judiciary and the justice system.
From a legal perspective, Azmil Mustafa was charged under Section 17A of the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission Act 2009 in relation to receiving gratification connected to his official duties. He also faced an alternative charge under Section 165 of the Penal Code, which concerns a public servant obtaining a valuable benefit from a person connected with the public servant's official function. These legal provisions are important because they aim to prevent public officials from allowing personal benefits to interfere with their official responsibilities. In this case, the central issue was whether the financial benefits was connected to Azmil Mustafa's official functions as a judge.
To establish the offence, the prosecution presented different forms of evidence. These include witness testimony, bank transaction record, and relevant court and investigation records. The financial records show the 5,000 ringgit transaction, while the testimony and other documents help establish connection to the court proceeding. Taken together, the evidence was considered by the court in determining that the charge has been proven.
In 2022, the Sessions Court found Azmil Mustafa guilty and sentenced him to 6 months imprisonment and a 25,000 ringgit fine. Then a year later, in 2023, the Shah Alam High Court reduced the sentence to 1 day's imprisonment and a 12,000 ringgit fine. However, in April 2025, the Court of Appeal allowed the prosecution's appeal and restored the original sentence. The final sentence was therefore 6 months imprisonment and a 25,000 ringgit fine with a further 6 months imprisonment in default of the fine.
The court's decision shows that corruption can be punished under the law. But punishment alone does not explain the problem. To understand corruption more deeply, we need to ask, what factors contributed to it? The first contributing factor is abuse of position. A position of authority gives individuals power and access that can potentially be misused for personal benefit. In this case, the authority associated with a judicial position created an opportunity for personal interest to conflict with professional responsibilities. Therefore, when entrusted authority is misused for personal gain, it can create conditions in which corruption becomes more likely. The second factor is conflict of interest. Public officials are expected to separate their personal interests from their professional responsibilities. When a financial benefit is connected to matters under an official's responsibility, it can create a conflict between personal interest and public duty. Such a conflict can undermine impartiality and ethical decision-making, increasing the risk of corrupt behavior. The third factor is a failure to uphold professional integrity. Integrity requires individuals in position of responsibility to act honestly and ethically, even when opportunities for personal gain exist. When personal benefit is prioritized over professional obligations, values such as honesty, impartiality, and responsibility are weakened. This is especially important in the judiciary, where public trust depends heavily on ethical and independent decision-making. Finally, opportunities for corruption and weaknesses in accountability can also contribute to corrupt behavior. Corruption becomes more likely when individuals with authority have opportunities to receive improper benefits without immediate detection or consequences. Strong monitoring, transparency, and accountability mechanism can reduce these opportunities and increase the likelihood of detection. Therefore, preventing corruption requires both individual integrity and strong institutional controls.
The consequences of corruption extend beyond the individual involved. When a judge is found guilty of corruption, people may begin to question whether the justice system is always fair and independent. This can weaken public trust in the judiciary and damage the reputation of public institutions. The case therefore shows that corruption is not only a legal issue, it is also an issue of governance, institutional credibility, and public confidence. The Azmil Mustafa case reminds us that integrity is essential, especially for individuals entrusted with power and responsibility.
Rasuah ibarat penyakit kronik, seumpama kanser yang tidak dirawat akan menghancurkan menghancurkan negara.
Having an important position does not place anyone above the law. People entrusted with public authority must remain honest, responsible, and accountable. Ultimately, preventing corruption requires both individual integrity and effective institutional safeguards.
If corruption can damage public trust and weaken institutions, prevention becomes essential. So, how can similar cases be prevented in the future?
Here we go with solution 1, stronger oversight and asset declaration. First, stronger independent oversight should be implemented for justicial conduct and financial affairs. Judges could also be required to make mandatory declarations of their assets and income. Regular monitoring can help identify unusual financial changes or potential misconduct at an early stage, rather than waiting until corruption has already occurred. Solution 2, whistleblower protection. Second, safe and confidential reporting mechanisms should be strengthened. Court staff, lawyers, and other individuals who notice suspicious behavior should have a safe way to report it. Strong whistleblower protection is also important because people may hesitate to report misconduct if they fear retaliation. Early reporting can help prevent misconduct from developing into more serious corruption. Third, judges should receive regular ethics and integrity training throughout their careers. Such training should reinforce the importance of impartiality and remind justicial officers to avoid personal or financial influences in their professional duties. Integrity should therefore be treated as an ongoing professional responsibility, not something taught only at the beginning of a career. So finally, corruption involving public officials should be handled through effective investigation and consistent enforcement. Enforcement agencies and relevant institutions should have sufficient independence, authority, and resources to investigate suspected misconduct without external interference. At the same time, fair and consistent punishment is important to show that even individuals in position of power are subject to the same law and accountability standards.
Corruption is not only about money, it is about power, integrity, and trust. Rasuah bukan sekadar tentang wang, ia menyebabkan kuasa, integriti, dan kepercayaan. Public power must always be used for the public interest, not personal gain.